Sup y'all, it's not Shuffle today. Instead it's Ranger, the editor for the channel. This video is really just gonna be a really random 10, maybe 15 minute ramble about the behavior acquisition of Red Hook Studios. This is something that I wanted to talk about for a while now, and only now got the opportunity to actually record an audio for it. It's like I said, it's completely unscripted. I don't know if any of you watched my other videos, either the entropy effect one or even the Vestal rant. Both of those were running mostly off of a script, but this is just my random thoughts about everything. I do have some notes that I collected, so that I'm not completely tangenting on every single line, but I will tangent eventually anyway. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is just the absolute sheer amount of doom posting surrounding the acquisition. And I think that it is absolutely blown out of proportion, and that the acquisition is in no way as bad as people want to argue that it is. I've seen some people say some stuff like, "Oh, we're worried out of love. We love Red Hook Studios and we don't want behavior to alter too much about the game." And that's all well and good, but you have to understand that this argument just kind of loses merit once you realize the fact that Red Hook themselves wanted this decision for their own studio. It's Red Hook. It's something that they wanted purposely to not only support their next title, but also to continue optimizing their current game, Darkest Dungeon 2. So you can't really say that it's out of love, but then also disagree with the choice of Red Hook for partnering, well, I say partnering, but it was bought by Behaviour, with Behaviour as a publisher. It's very similar to how people didn't like Red Hook taking the Epic deal, even though the Epic deal ensured enough resources for early access to be, even successful. Whilst I do have my own opinion that I think DD2 could have used another year in the early access oven, mostly because, well, it went into 1.0 with certain things that make it seem like it should still be in early access. But that's beside the point. One thing people loved to bring up in the first video, talking about how Behaviour bought it, but we didn't have the Q&A yet, was talking about the Midwinter Studios and Project T. If you don't know what Project T was, it was essentially, if you've ever seen the Evil Dead game, the ASIM, it was gonna be pretty much something similar to that. But Midwinter earlier this year, was actually shut down by Behaviour, and people really loved bringing that up. What everybody that brought it up failed to mention, however, is the fact that after Midwinter was assimilated, the employees of Midwinter were offered severance and relocation packages by Behaviour. And guess what? Most of them said no. To the relocation, of course, not the severance. And even funnier still is the fact that after Red Hook mentioned the Midwinter employees getting severance in their own Q&A, suddenly none of the comments talked about Midwinter. Funny how that works, isn't it? The second most common thing that I see people talk about is Behaviour's quote-unquote incompetence in regards to their own game, Dead by Daylight. What people fail to consider is the fact that, yes, you can definitely meme on Behaviour having some really questionable decisions 6 years ago or something. But let's not pretend that Red Hook has a completely perfect and godly balanced track record as well. If you've ever played Darkest Dungeon 1 or even Darkest Dungeon 2 early access, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But the real reason I bring this up is just the fact that Behaviour's marketing is extremely good. Behaviour knows how to market their games. Again, like, you can maybe think that the balance of their games is not the best, but what I really want to center is not their balance team right now, because if Behaviour is to be believed in what they said, they are going to be completely hands-off from Red Hook in terms of that. They did say that they're gonna have to just take over finance and certain points of management. But if I can be perfectly honest, I would not mind seeing Behaviour to a certain degree take over the marketing too. Simply because their marketing team knows what they're doing. Like, their marketing team is superb. Which, again, just brings me to the point that this whole idea of being taken over by Behaviour is not nearly as bad as people want to post about it. The third point that I want to focus on is this idea that Red Hook took the Behaviour publishing deal because they were in the red, and that DT2, didn't make enough money, wasn't profitable, and it was just damage control. Now, I'm not really gonna talk too much about this point because, well, first of all, in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the Q&A, you can pick up every salient point to find out that this just simply isn't the case. But nowadays people don't watch anything unless it has Subway Surfers playing in 3 different corners, so the research, quote unquote, didn't get that far. Even just ignoring the fact that Red Hook themselves has said that both Darkest Dungeon and Darkest Dungeon 2 have been profitable in the end, to claim that Red Hook needed to take this deal is absolutely pathetic. Even more funny is that these are the same people that probably didn't like the fact that Red Hook took the Epic deal, which, gave them more money. So it's actually kind of oddly hypocritical to claim this, considering that the people that saw Red Hook take the Epic deal called them sellouts before, but now suddenly they're in the red somehow. Now that I've talked about the points that I wanted to talk about, let me be completely crystal clear. Just like with any kind of game dev situation, I'm not trying to argue or even claim that there is zero risk involved with Behaviour being the owner of Red Hook. In fact, this is the same thing that Chris and Tyler said in their own Q&A. They said there's always a risk and reward factor in this. But if Behaviour is to be believed, which is the fact that Behaviour themselves said, we will only buy you out if you two stay in the company. And they also claimed that they would be completely hands-off, and they just want Red Hook to continue what they've always been doing, which is developing Darkest Dungeon. Then this opportunity for Red Hook can only turn out well. You can call that toxic positivity if you want, but in reality, you have to understand that if this turns out to be really good and beneficial for Red Hook, that can only mean that both Darkest Dungeon 2 now and Red Hook's newest title, it will guarantee that their next title will be the best game they've made. The whole reason I even made this video is because I am fully in support of Red Hook for this decision. But yeah, if you stuck to the end, thanks for letting me just... Thanks for just hearing me out rambling about random stuff that I have coming up to my mind. If you have any questions as to the regards of the acquisition, I will leave the link to the recording of the Q&A in the description, because Red Hook actually talks a lot more about it in detail than I can hear. So go watch that if you're confused about anything. If the answer is not in the Q&A, you can try writing into the comments, and I will try to answer it as best I can. This video is, once again, my own video, just like the Vestal one. So if you want to flame anybody for talking shit, hit me up. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. But yeah, that's about it for my video, and I'll catch you all later.